married to my high school sweetheart, and I love her so much. We already have 2 daughters, ages 6 and 4, and she's about 6 months pregnant with another girl. My wife had a difficult upbringing in many ways. She comes from a large Catholic family with lots of cousins, aunts, and uncles. I will also note that this family is prominent in our hometown. They basically run the place and have for decades. There's a lot of money in the mix, as well as a desire for them to be seen as a successful and happy family. Many of them take a lot of pride in being part of their crew, which is why I think many of them tried to silence my wife. My wife had a terrible grandfather who molested her when she was young. My wife realized the severity of what her grandpa did during her freshman year of college and told me, and then we spoke with her mother. Her parents believed her, but didn't want her to tell the police because the creep was basically on his deathbed with dementia at that point. They thought it would be, 1, pointless, and 2, cause a lot of stress in the family. I won't get into my opinions on this because if I did, I would be writing a novel. While my wife didn't go to the police, she was vocal to her extended family that she had been molested by her grandfather and that she hated when they told stories about him being this beloved saint. Her extended family didn't believe her, and once when she started talking about her abuse, her Uncle Tim told everyone who would listen that my wife was a liar who had always been a problem. She was a straight A student at a top college at this point. The first Christmas after she spoke about the abuse, Uncle Tim was telling a story about the grandfather, and my wife asked him not to talk about him in front of her. Uncle Tim, who was drunk, looked right at her and said, "Shut up, you lying witch." Another time, when my wife was home for Christmas break, she went to give one of Uncle Tim's sons, who she used to be close with, a hug, and he rejected her and said, "Next thing I know, I'll get accused of molesting her," in front of everyone. My in-laws were angry, but blamed these outbursts on drinking, which upset me. My wife literally moved us across the country because she couldn't stand to be near her family anymore and prefers to be with my family over hers, although she loves her parents and is somewhat close to them. I wish they had done much more to stand up for her, like cutting Uncle Tim and the other enablers out, but I appreciated that they at least believed and supported my wife in their own, albeit limited way. During our last year of college, the terrible grandfather died, which was tragic. At the funeral, which my wife didn't attend, several of her cousins, including Uncle Tim's daughter, got drunk and told everyone they had been molested as well. To my knowledge, the family doesn't really talk about the abuse, but they also don't think my wife is lying anymore. They are no longer outright cruel to her at events like holidays and weddings, but no one has formally apologized to her either, including Uncle Tim or his son. For years, they just hugged her and pretended like everything was fine. A few weeks ago, Uncle Tim had a heart attack and died. My mother-in-law's older brother, Uncle Tim, had always been someone she looked up to, so she's taking his death hard. My wife has a lot of fond memories of Uncle Tim from childhood. He was her favorite uncle and soccer coach, which is why I think his treatment of her impacted my wife so much, and why his death is now bringing up a lot of old feelings of sadness and hurt. My wife asked if we could fly across the country for his funeral. I was confused as to why she would want to do that, and she said it wasn't about celebrating him, but about supporting her mother and her cousins, one of whom was a victim of the terrible grandfather. I didn't want to go, but I respected my wife's decision. We left the girls with my parents because I didn't want them around my wife's extended family, if I'm being honest, and got on a plane. The night before the funeral, there was a dinner with just my wife's extended family, and several of the relatives got up and spoke about Uncle Tim like he was Jesus Christ reincarnated. My wife, who is 6 months pregnant, just sat at the table, staring into space and crying. I hadn't seen her so upset in years. When we got back to our hotel, my wife was hyperventilating so hard that I almost took her to the hospital, and she spent hours lying with me and crying. I told her we didn't need to go to the funeral, but she insisted it was the right thing to do, even though she admitted she didn't want to go. On the morning of the funeral, which started at 10 a.m., I woke up a few minutes before the alarm was set to go off. We had just flown across the country and were 3 hours behind. So I figured if the alarm didn't go off, my wife wouldn't wake up in time. I was still rattled from seeing my wife so hurt the night before and frustrated about all the pain she had gone through over the years. It was an impulsive decision, but I turned off her alarm and went back to sleep. When we woke up, the funeral was almost over. If I'm being honest, my wife seemed a bit relieved when she realized we would miss the funeral, after a few minutes of panic. She explained to her parents that we had overslept and no one questioned her. We ended up going to dinner with her parents and some of the less troublesome relatives later and had a great time. A part of me feels good because I think I helped my wife do what she actually wanted to do, which was to miss the funeral, but wouldn't do because of her strong sense of duty and loyalty to her parents. I also spared her from having to lie about why she wasn't at the funeral, as she's a horrible liar, so no one would have believed whatever reason she gave. And she doesn't feel bad because she thinks it was an accident. On the other hand, I feel terrible for lying to her and going behind her back. I've never done anything like this to her or anyone, and I feel guilty and manipulative. I feel even worse because she keeps telling people who ask how the funeral was that we overslept, and it feels like I'm lying to her each time. Am I the bad guy, and should I come clean to my wife? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Am I the idiot, and should I come clean to my wife? Whether turning off the alarm was right or wrong, if you tell her now, it is going to make her feel 1,000 times worse than if she had gone to the funeral. Don't make your wife feel awful because of your actions. You should never tell her and delete this Reddit post. Comment 2. Not the idiot. You protected your wife. By the way, it's more common for families to blame the victim than to have an issue with the aggressor. I'm glad your wife has you. Delete this post as soon as possible. Never, ever mention it again. Now for the update. I'm back with an update on the whole situation with my wife and her family. A few days after the funeral, we returned home with our daughters. My wife seemed distant, like all the time. At family dinners, she'd just be lost in thought, not really there with us. It kind of worried me, but I figured she'd bounce back eventually. One evening, she got a call from her mom about a Christmas family gathering. I noticed my wife was hesitant about attending, but I didn't want to push her on it. She had a lot on her plate already, and I didn't want to add to it. But the closer we got to Christmas, the more she wanted to go to the gathering. So I reluctantly agreed, thinking it might help her heal or something. We arrived at the family's big old house, all decked out for the holidays with a massive tree and everything. But let me tell you, the atmosphere was cold. Everyone was avoiding talking to me. It was awkward, to say the least. My wife's cousins were there, and they seemed super uncomfortable around her. Uncle Tim's widow was also there, sharing her stories about him. It really upset my wife. I tried to engage in conversations, but it felt like I was talking to a brick wall. No one wanted to have anything to do with me. Then, her mom had the nerve to insist on everyone sharing their favorite memory of Uncle Tim. When it was my wife's turn, she finally spoke up, mentioning how he hurt her. The room went dead silent. Her mom dismissed her comment, saying Uncle Tim was a wonderful man. After that really awkward moment, my wife excused herself to the bathroom. I followed her but found her locked inside, refusing to come out. I went back to the living room and tensions were high. Family members were starting to whisper about my wife's outburst. It was clear they weren't on her side. I confronted my wife's mom about the lack of support for her. Things escalated into a shouting match, and family members were taking sides. You could see the divide. It was like something out of a reality show. My wife finally came out of the bathroom, and she was clearly overwhelmed. She tried to defend me, but got shut down by her mom's anger. The whole thing was spiraling out of control, and I suggested we leave. My wife reluctantly agreed, but as we were leaving, family members started accusing her of ruining Christmas. We left the gathering, but the damage was done. The atmosphere was heavy, like a lead weight in our chests. A few days later, my wife got a group text from her family. The text was full of hurtful comments about her actions at the gathering. It was brutal. My wife decided to cut off contact with her family for a while. I supported her decision but I felt the strain on our relationship. I realized I had kept some secrets from her, and it was time to come clean about the funeral. I confessed about turning off her alarm, and she was shocked. We ended up arguing about trust and how my actions had consequences. It wasn't pretty. Eventually, my wife did contact her family, leading to a family meeting to discuss everything. I knew I had lost her trust, and the family meeting ended in disaster. Her mom sided against her, which just pushed her further away from the family. She was devastated. I feel like everything is falling apart. Sure, I was trying to protect her from being hurt, but at what cost? Trust is a big deal, and I messed up. I just hope we can find a way out of this mess, but honestly, I'm not sure how. Am I the idiot for exposing my brother's fiancé as my high school bully and ruining their engagement? I'm Sean, 27 years old, and my brother is Devin, 28 years old. He is marrying Erin, 28 years old, and she is my high school bully. I say bully, but really tormentor is more accurate. My brother knows this. He went to school with me and saw it all. I came out as gay my freshman year. I didn't announce it or anything, but I told my friend, and he told someone who told others. When Erin found out, she and her group of friends chose to mess with me. The things included, innocently enough, pointing and laughing, walking up and saying gay jokes, asking boys to ask me out, then laugh at me. To less innocent things, like in my sophomore year, they left a razor blade in my locker with a note saying, "Try again," after I tried to take my own life. Just terrible things until she left my junior year. So I had my senior year to myself. Well, now he brought her over to the 4th of July last month and introduced her as his fiancée. I didn't even know they were dating. Neither did my parents. They know what she did, and they were surprised at first, but decided she must have changed and told me to give her a chance. I was angry and distant the rest of the day. I didn't talk to him and just hung out with my cousins. The next day, he called me and asked why I didn't talk to him at all yesterday, and I told him he's marrying a raging narcissist who wanted me to harm myself in the bathroom. Why would I talk to him? He blew up on me, telling me I have no right to say that about his fiancée and that she isn't the same person. I shouldn't judge anyone based on their actions as a kid, blah, blah, blah. I hung up on him and am not planning on talking to him again until he apologizes. He had my parents call me to tell me they think I really should give her a chance. She's a changed person and has told them she is sorry for what she did to me in the past. I didn't get that apology. Who cares if she says sorry to them? I certainly don't. I told them until she's begging me to give her a chance for forgiveness, they can leave me alone with my brother. Now for an update. As of an hour ago, Erin messaged me a very heartfelt and sweet message, which I will copy and paste here. Hey Sean, this is Erin. I'm sorry about my actions in high school, but honestly, it was a decade ago. I don't know why you care anymore. The things you do as kids don't accurately reflect who you are as a person, and I doubt you're the same person you were back then. The fact that you're judging me and not even letting me be happy with your brother when we announce a very serious and joyful thing is honestly very disappointing. I figured you would have grown up and not acted like a child about this. Well, I really dislike her. So I replied, "Hey, I'm glad to hear from you. You destroyed my high school years and never even gave a glimpse of remorse. So you can go away. And I hope your marriage with my brother ends in cheating and fighting, and that you end up living in a box under the freeway again. Goodbye." So now I don't know. I'm done with my brother and just the entire situation. Am I in the wrong for dropping him out of my life and not moving on? Even if I am, I don't think I care, but I kind of want an outside opinion. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I personally have no forgiveness for bullies, especially the ones that suicide bait their victims. If she really was remorseful of her actions, she would have apologized and tried to make it up to you. Instead, she gave a half-hearted response and doubled down on why you should get over it. There's no doubt in my mind that she purposefully dated your brother to further mess with you. People like that peak in high school, so they try to make up for it by forever living through their memories, no matter how twisted they were. Comment 2. Not the idiot. That message was not an apology. It was her telling you yet again that she's still a bully. She's blaming you for being hurt by her actions and telling you that you are at fault for remembering it. Send her message to your brother and your parents and ask them if they think this is an apology or more bullying. If they have 3 brain cells between them, they will give you the right answer. If they don't, then you are better off without any of them in your life. Good luck. Now for the update. 2 days after the last update, I'm at home, still avoiding family and feeling the weight of the situation with my brother and his fiancée. Like, seriously. I just wanted to be left alone. But nope, that was too much to ask. My brother starts blowing up my phone again, this time more persistent, asking why I'm ignoring him. I just let his calls go to voicemail. I wasn't engaging with him anymore. He didn't deserve my time. My mom then reaches out, asking me to reconsider and talk to his fiancée. She claims she's changed. I mean, can you believe this? My mom is all in on this, even after everything that's happened. So to keep the peace, I decide to attend a family dinner at their house. At least it'll get my mom off my back for a while. The atmosphere is tense when I arrive. It's super awkward. My brother's upset, clearly. He tries to engage me in conversation, but I just nod and keep my responses short. I wasn't ready to talk. His fiancée arrives late and immediately tries to break the ice by complimenting my new haircut. Yeah, like that was gonna work. The dinner progresses and she awkwardly recounts a story from high school, trying to paint herself as the victim. It's almost pathetic. My brother laughs at her story and I feel the anger bubbling inside me. I just couldn't take it anymore. I stand up and leave the table, stating that I can't listen to this anymore. My brother follows me outside, demanding to know what my problem is. I shout back about how his fiancée hasn't changed, reminding him of her past actions. He accuses me of being petty and holding on to old grudges. I storm off. The next day, I decide to dig into her social media. I find old posts where she mocked me and others. I screenshot everything, planning to confront my brother with it later. While at the grocery store, I run into a family friend who casually mentions seeing his fiancée with someone else. I'm curious and ask for more details. Apparently, she was seen at a bar with a guy who isn't my brother. This is the perfect opportunity. I know it could escalate things, but I need more evidence. That night, I go to the bar and wait. Sure enough, I spot her flirting with this guy. I take pictures of them together. As I leave the bar, I send the photos to my brother with a simple message. This is who she really is. He responds angrily, accusing me of trying to ruin his happiness. I tell him I'm trying to protect him, not ruin anything. He insists he trusts her and tells me to mind my own business. A few days later, my mom calls, saying my brother is devastated. Out of nowhere, he shows up at my apartment, his face pale and eyes wild. He demands to know why I would do this to him, blaming me for ruining everything. I stand firm, stating I only revealed the truth. We argue, and he shouts that he never wants to see me again. A week later, she posts a breakup announcement on social media, confirming my suspicions. Now the family dynamic is tense, and I expect backlash from my parents and possibly from my brother. I'm just preparing for the fallout. I'm just bracing myself for the storm that's about to hit. I feel like I'm caught in the middle of all this drama. And it's exhausting. I know my parents are going to come for me hard, and my brother is probably going to be even more pissed off than before. I just hope my mental health can handle all of this because right now I'm just trying to keep my head above water. I'll probably update if anything major goes down, but honestly, I'm not sure how much more of this I can take. To answer a few questions, my brother's fiancée was the main bully, but she had friends who also participated. I don't know if they changed or not, as I have no contact with them. The story she shared at dinner was about a boy she claimed to have grown close to, who had supposedly stalked her. My brother thought this was her reason for stopping the bullying. However, she didn't stop tormenting me until she graduated. My brother's relationship history is limited. He's had a couple of serious relationships, but this was the first engagement. My brother's reaction to the social media posts was strong. He said he felt manipulated and tricked, especially since he had publicly announced their engagement a month prior. Am I the idiot for dumping my boyfriend after he called me broke and showed up at my apartment uninvited? I've been with my boyfriend for over 2 years now, and in the time we've been together, I've worked 3 jobs, and he's worked 1.5. I say 1.5 because he got fired from his first job a day after getting hired. I got fired from my most recent job a while ago for reporting a coworker's inappropriate behavior, and that coworker and the manager are best friends. But I have since been on the hunt for a new job. He finally got a job a few months ago, and I've been nothing but supportive throughout his journey to getting it, and was so happy for him when I found out he was hired. Over the last few months, when we're having a conversation about some things, he'll call me broke, make jokes about me not having a job, and say things like, I couldn't imagine not having money. Typically, I just laugh it off as at first, it didn't really bother me, but it's gotten so irritating. Now I don't ask him for money, to buy me things, spend it all on me, etc., and vice versa. We just do it for each other just because. I'm not just sitting on my couch not looking for another job or not doing anything that I'd get paid for. I've been getting paid to babysit, clean homes and yards, run errands, etc. Anyways, about a day ago, we were in the car waiting for our food order to be completed, and during our conversation he called me broke, followed by his other comments about me not having a job. I finally lost it and told him to stop constantly degrading me, or you'll see how fast you become single. He got quiet, and I continued with, I don't know why you do that, but I'm absolutely sick of it. Not only is it disrespectful, but I've never sat here and constantly degraded you for not having a job for the majority of our relationship, let alone called you broke every chance I got. I don't understand why he does that, especially considering there was one instance where we were giving my dad a ride home, and my dad and I were having a conversation about me saving my money. My dad made a joke about it, which I didn't mind as it wasn't rude or disrespectful, but for some reason my boyfriend decided to butt in immediately after, before I could even say anything to my dad, and said, I make more money than she does from working, and I don't even have a job. Despite that being false, I still felt incredibly disrespected. Things got awkward for a moment until my dad changed the subject, and I decided to wait until we dropped him off to talk to my boyfriend about what he said. I told him that what he said was incredibly disrespectful and that he had absolutely no right to be counting the money I had in my pocket. We had a conversation about it, and he stopped until he got the job he has now and started jumping at every chance to call me broke. So am I the one in the wrong? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the jerk. You shared your feelings and thoughts with him and asked to be respected. Whenever someone degrades another person like this, they are not showing respect for the other individual. I say lay everything out on the table for him, and for him to do the same for you, and see if you two have a future, or if it's better for you both to not be together. Comment 2, it sounds like he was being completely disrespectful to you. I do hope you found a more respectful way to tell him that he was bothering you before unloading on him, although you sort of did on the car ride. But he probably should have realized that it was bothering you, not the jerk. Now, for the update. I'm sitting here at my aunt's house, and my life is a mess. So, like I mentioned, it's been 2 days since everything blew up with my boyfriend. I knew I had to take some time for myself, just to sort out my thoughts and feelings about everything. I went for long walks, watched way too many rom-coms, and ate ice cream like it was my job. It was a lot of me just trying to figure out what I wanted and where I was at with this relationship. The more I thought about it, the more I felt like I was the only one putting in any effort. Anyway, the boyfriend texted me asking if we could talk. He said he wanted to apologize, and I was like, sure, let's see what he has to say. We met at this local diner where we used to go for breakfast all the time. I got there early because I was super nervous, honestly. I just wanted to see if he'd actually changed or if this was just more of the same. When he walked in, he seemed nervous, which I guess was a good sign. He started talking about how he didn't mean to hurt me and that he was just joking. I listened, but honestly, his tone just made me more uneasy. Like he was saying all the right things, but it felt like he was just trying to get me to let it go. At one point, in the middle of everything, He started bragging about his new job and how much he was making. I was like, "Are you serious right now?" We were trying to steer the conversation back to us, to our relationship, and he just kept bringing it back to his financial success. It felt like he was just using this apology as a way to show off. So, after we finished our meals, he casually suggested we celebrate his new job with a bunch of friends. I was like, "What? All this talk about how he's been disrespectful and now he wants to go party?" I told him I wasn't comfortable with it and that I just needed some time to think. But he just brushed it off, saying it would be fun and that I needed to get over myself. That was it for me. I stood up and said I wanted to go home instead of to his little celebration. He flipped out and was like, "You're being dramatic." I just walked out of the diner, not even looking back. That night, he texted me asking if I was still coming to the celebration. Then he sent a bunch more texts, just confused and frustrated. I ignored him because I was done. The next day, he showed up at my apartment, banging on the door. He was like, "Let me in, we need to talk." I was just chilling at home, trying to relax. I didn't want to deal with him. He pushed his way in when I opened the door, demanding we work this out. I told him to leave, saying we weren't going to continue this fight. He started calling me stubborn and unreasonable. I was like, "You know what? You need to get out." So he stormed out, slamming the door behind him, and I felt this weird mixture of relief and anxiety. The rest of the day was spent packing a bag of my essentials. I decided to stay with my aunt for a few days just to clear my head. I needed space away from all of this. He texted again, apologizing for his outburst and wanting to talk. I just ignored it, focusing on getting out of my apartment. The next day, he showed up again, uninvited, trying to convince me to come back home. My aunt had to intervene, telling him it was time for him to leave. He left, but not without shouting about how I was overreacting. That just sealed the deal for me. I realized I needed to cut ties for good, so I sent him a final message explaining that I was done with the relationship and wishing him well. It felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. I know I have a long road ahead of me, but I think I'm finally on the right path. Mini update. After sending the breakup message, the boyfriend tried to reach out again, but I blocked him. I returned to my apartment, changed the locks, and filed for a no-contact order. I'm focusing on myself now, exploring new job opportunities, and planning to move out of state in a few months. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.